I figured. I got a hole.
One gentleman lives in Richmond and the other gentleman lives in.
She was just signaling she was ready.
Okay, we're ready too.
Sure does. Well, maybe next month.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, good evening. We welcome all of you here tonight. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and if you would stand, we'll have our invocation and a pledge of allegiance. Let us pray, please. Heavenly Father, we are grateful that you've given us an opportunity to come before you directly into your throne room, Heavenly Father, to ask you to grant to us tonight just a portion of your wisdom to liberate the issues of our city. Lord, we are also ask that you would give a special portion of your comfort to those that have lost loved ones this week. All of those families who are grieving because of loss of loved ones, we just pray that you would offer them just a portion of your comfort. We pray, Lord, tonight that any decisions that we make will be in the best interest of those that we serve. And we make our prayer in your Son's name.
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, our first item tonight is some special presentations, and our Assistant City Manager, Tanya, is going to make those introductions.
Absolutely. Thank you, Mayor. Tonight we have Greg Miller and Logan Booth to present the results of our audit this year. I do have to apologize. We did have one slight change over the weekend, so we do not have the printed version, but we'll be working on those as soon as possible to get those versions to City Council as well as to the public and the school board.
Greg, Logan, welcome.
Good evening. Thank you for having us here. My name is Greg Miller. I'm director with Cherry Becker, and Logan is also.
Yep, I'm the audit manager on the engagement for the city.
Come with good news.
Always.
Okay.
Alright, so we're here this evening to kind of go through the results of our audit for the fiscal year 21. The slides over here on my right, I won't go through all the little placeholders, but essentially we were engaged by the city to perform an audit. An audit is a broad term. There's a lot of things people think an audit is, there's a lot of things people don't understand about what an audit actually is. In terms of our engagement, we do a financial statement audit that's over the city's financial statements and whether they are prepared in accordance with generally accepted auditing principles. And that financial statement includes the city, the schools, as well as the EIDA. We also have to perform our audit not just within generally accepted auditing standards, but also within government auditing standards. That's an additional layer of professional standards that we have to follow due to the nature of a city. And then because we're in the Commonwealth, the Auditor of Public Accounts has another set of compliance requirements that we have to look at while we conduct an audit of a city, county, or town within the Commonwealth. Within those specifications, there's a requirement for a VRS examination, and that examination is on the census data that's provided by the city and the schools to VRS, that then VRS uses to create the actuarial liabilities that then get recorded in the city's financial statements associated with those pension and OPEB plans. We also have to do agreed upon procedures. Those are specific procedures that are prescribed by the state over the comparative cost transmittal, which is taking the financial statements, putting it into a different form mandated by the state, and setting that back up to them so they can kind of compare everyone equally across the state. And then lastly, as part of our engagement, there are a few non-attest services. Non-attest mean no assurance, we're not putting an opinion on, but still kind of work that is typical within an accounting kind of wheelhouse. So one of that's assisting in the drafting of the financial statements, assisting in developing that transmittal form, taking the information from financial statements, put it in the state prescribed form, and then the last piece is the data collection form, and that's the same process for the state, but at the federal level. So that's kind of our engagement services. As I mentioned, not just the city's financial statements, but within the city's reporting entity includes the schools as well as the EIDA, and then kind of the bottom level, it's kind of matching up the opinion units within the financial statement. So you have your major funds within your governmental funds, your proprietary funds, et cetera, et cetera. Won't bore you too much to death, but I just wanted to make you aware of kind of how it sits out from a financial reporting entity. Service deliverables. Within the financial statements, this is a thick document. There's varying different pieces of information. There's multiple sections in there, and the information there varies from section to section. We have an introductory section that includes a letter of transmittal, certificates, org charts, etc. You have your financial section has MD&A, management discussion analysis, the financial statements, the notes, and then you have RSI, required supplementary information. There's a bunch of stuff in there, and our opinion is different depending on the section. So from an audit perspective, we design our audit in order to provide an opinion on the financial statements themselves and the notes to the overall financial statements. The other information in there has a varying opinion depending on its relation to the financial statements as a whole. So the middle column, our in relation to, is the other supplementary information. That's information further in the back of the financial document, and that information is derived from the same information that's used to prepare the financial statements. So since that information has been subjected to audit, we can do an in relation to opinion saying that that information is accurate in all material respects as it relates to the financial statements taken as a whole. The information on the right side, the introductory section, like I mentioned, the letter transmittal, has other information that doesn't lend itself to being audited. Just it's subjective in nature, so we can't give an opinion on that. RSI includes management's discussion and analysis. That's management explaining what happened during the year, and these are the results being the financial statements. It also has a little bit of an economic outlook, so I can't tell you what's going to happen tomorrow, so I can't give you an opinion on whether I think what management sees coming from an economic outlook for the city is in all material respects accurate. And then last section is statistical section, and that's just trend tables for 10 years. That is 10 years of information in there. So neither of those three sections have any type of audit opinion or any assurance built around that information. From a compliance standpoint, on the government auditing side, we review internal controls over the financial reporting for the purpose of developing our audit procedures to ensure that they're appropriate in the circumstances. We don't review internal controls or test controls in order to provide an opinion on their operating effectiveness, solely for the design of our audit procedures. And then we also do test the compliance with certain provisions of laws, regulations, and contracts that might have a material impact on the city's financial statements. We are CPAs, we're not attorneys, so we can't give a legal opinion on whether the city is in compliance or not. That report would just include anything that we do note that may have material non-compliance associated. On the right-hand side is the uniform guidance. That's the compliance requirements for using federal awards, federal assistance awards. Same thought process. On the left-hand side under the orange, we review the internal controls and we report on any issues that we note within the internal controls. And the same thing from a compliance standpoint. We review the compliance requirements that OMB requires us to look at. We don't issue a legal opinion on compliance, but we disclose any material non-compliance that we would note as a result of our procedures. This last slide is just from a VRS perspective. We issue an opinion on the VRS, whether it was in compliance with the requirements that the VRS requires to submit that. SET is an attest service. Agreed upon procedures, there's no opinion or assurance provided on that. Those are specific. We did step 1. Here's the result of step 1. Step 2, result of steps 2. There's no judgment involved. It's just us. Here's the procedure. Here's the results of the procedures. And then other services I mentioned, those are non-attest. Those are just services that we provide to the city in the course of our engagement. Overall timeline, if you have any questions on the timeline, I can answer those. I wasn't going to spend much time on this slide, but that's the overall timeline of our engagement. So the slide everyone wants to hear and see about, and I joke all the time that I need to move this to the last slide, because this is where we lose everyone after I get past this slide, is our engagement results. So from, I think it actually was this week last year, so 52 weeks ago, I was here to say that we have finished the financial statements, but we still have work to go on the compliance supplement from a compliance testing due to CARES and all those streams of funding at that point in time. So I'm pleased to say that we're done this year. We'll be back in the same week. We're done with the financial statements, and this year we're also done with the compliance piece. I would like to give OMB some credit, but I can't give them but so much credit. They were still significantly delayed in getting their compliance issues or compliance supplement out. But we are completed with the compliance piece as well as the financial statement section this year. So a little bit ahead of where we were last year. From an audit perspective, as I mentioned, this is on the basic financial statements and the notes to the financial statements. And our opinion of the financial statements is unmodified. That's the technical term. It's a clean opinion. It's the type of opinion that you are looking at or looking for on the financial statements prepared by management. Again, same with the in relation to, that covers the supplementary information as well as the schedule of expenditure of federal awards, and that's an in relation to or a clean opinion. And then lastly, just a reminder that from the introductory, RSI, and statistical sections, those are not audited, and we do not issue an opinion on those sections. From a gas perspective, we did not identify any deficiencies in internal controls that we consider to be material weaknesses. If we would, those would be included in that report. And then also, we did not identify any non-compliance that would be material to the financial statements taken as a whole. And those both points hold true, same from the uniform grant guidance standpoint, the federal audit, no items that we consider to be material weaknesses, and our results of our testing did not discover any material non-compliance. And lastly, from the audited APA specs, we had no issue, no noted items of non-material, no items noted of material non-compliance. So a little bit of a repeat, but did I go backwards? Sorry, so for the examination on VRS, that's the census data that's provided by the city and the school, so Virginia Retirement System. We do issue an opinion on that, and that's in all material specs to the VRS requirements, so the unmodified type of opinion you're looking for. Agreed upon procedures is that comparative cost transmittal. Logan and I were actually just talking about that a couple minutes ago. That's in process. That can't even be started until the financial statements are done, because we're taking the financial statements, re-massaging things, and sticking it into a prescribed form by the state. So that's in process, and we anticipate completing that by the APA's deadline. And then lastly, other services, the last just like the state piece, the data collection form, that's in process. It's just taking the schedule of expenditure for their awards and reallocating that based upon the Fed's form. And we, again, anticipate issuing that by the OMB filing deadline. And with that, I'll turn it over to Logan to go through our required communications.
All right. Thank you, Greg. So at the conclusion of our audit, we do have some communications that we are required to deliver to the City Council, with the first of those being any accounting policies that would have changed of the city. And the city did adopt 2 new auditing standards per the Government Auditing Standards Boards, and those are GASB number 84 relating to fiduciary activities and GASB 98. And GASB 98 is just a guidance that was put out to actually change the name of the financial statements, where previously it was the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and now it is the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report. So other than that, there were no other changes of the accounting policies of the city. And our next required communication is the management judgment and accounting estimates. And those are certain line items in the financial statements that are subject to estimates and inputs that may be subject to bias. And we do perform audit procedures over those. And those managed and accounting estimates are the allowance for doubtful accounts relating to property taxes and accounts receivable, as well as the depreciation related to capital assets and the actuarially computed OPEB liabilities and pension liabilities that are computed by an external actuary. Our next required communications would be any auditing adjustments or any uncorrected misstatements for which there were none during the course of our audit. We did not have any disagreements with management, and we did not encounter any difficulties in performing our audit. Tanya and her group and Robin, everyone at the city is always a pleasure to work with, and we really appreciate it. We are not aware of any consultations with any external accountants other than ourselves. We did receive a management representation letter dated today, which kind of completes our issuance of the financial statements. And then we are not aware of any auditing findings or issues that we would have had to communicate to you all today. And lastly, of the required communications, we would be required to note any instances of that would impair our independence of the city, and we can affirm that we are independent based on our procedures that we perform in our acceptance process. And lastly, just a few upcoming accounting changes that we want to just very briefly touch on. Most notably will be an accounting change in fiscal year 2022, which will be GASB number 87 relating to leases. And that will just change how leases are accounted for, where currently there is a distinction between a capital lease and an operating lease. And under GASB 87, all leases will be capital leases, so the city and all of its funds will bring on an asset of the operating lease, where previously that was only run through the statement of activities with an expense. So there will be some changes to the reporting of the city based on the leases that the city holds. And other than that, we have some other accounting changes in here that I'll just include for kind of illustrative purposes, but I won't go over them in particular, and we're happy to answer any questions on any of these. But other than that, we will open it up to any questions from the council.
Greg, we know that you folks have done a good job. It's fair to say that our staff is phenomenal.
Yeah.
Just want to point that out. All right. Are there any questions of Greg or Logan? If not, gentlemen, thank you very much for being here. We appreciate what you've done and are continuing to do. Thank you. Same to you. All right. Our next presentation would be done by our Assistant City Manager. She has a holiday house and light decorative contest and a years of service employee recognitions. Tanya?
Okay. Though I'd like to take credit for the holiday lights, it's actually Dave and Gretchen who's put this together. I just get the fortunate to actually introduce it to City Council and to our public. So this year, for our 2021 City of Pocosin Holiday Light Decorating Contest, this is the second year. We'd like to thank everybody for participating in it. We had 20 houses who were entered, and our judges, some of whom are our council members, got to drive around the city and actually select who the winner was. Later on this week, we will put up locations for each of the houses for our citizens and patrons who would like to visit all the houses and en route to all of them and take a look at them. So the winner happens to be Carol and Jesse Wood. Took first place. Second place was Ketley Rugger. Third was Nancy Scott. And most creative was Marie Trice. So we'd like to thank all those individuals and congratulations to the Woods on their winning.
Good job.
And again, thank you, Gretchen and Dave, for all their hard work towards this. Next, I'm going to move over to our City Service Award. This is something that we typically had done during the city luncheons, but due to COVID, we've been unfortunately to bring everybody together and kind of recognize them. We felt like last year this is a good opportunity to let our staff know how much we appreciate them, as well as their years of service. And I'd like to thank Jessica Hartley for putting this together for me tonight. So we are going to start off with our 5-year award. And the great thing of this, she's got it automatically. I don't even have to touch. Love technology. So first we have Officer McCray with the police department. He has 5 years of service. Officer Whitley, again, 5 years of service. We have Jonathan Deal, firefighter paramedic, again, 5 years of service. Jessica Firth, firefighter EMT, 5 years of service. We have Katie Gones, record administrator with the police department, 5 years of service. And of course, Jessica Hartley, our library director, with 5 years of service. Next, we like to recognize those with 10 years of service. First, we have firefighter EMT David Dixon. Then we have our own Lieutenant TJ Farrington, as well as Charity with the Economic Development. Next is our 15 years of awards. We have Sergeant McClare with the Police Department. We have Regina White, Deputy Commissioner with the Commissioner of Revenue. We have Christopher Jensen. He was one of our chief mechanics with our Fleet Division. We have Master Police Officer Troy Curry. And we have JP or John Linton, Lieutenant of the Fire Department. Now moving on to our 20 years of service. We have our own Gretchen Guttenhauer, Assistant Director of Community Recreation. We have Christine Staples with the Assessor's Office. 25 years of service. We have Mark Boson in our Public Works. We have Mel Inslee with Community Recreation. And finally, with our 40 years, we have our own Deputy Fire Chief, Michael Bryant, with 40 years of service. I'd like to thank our individuals for all the years of service, even for the ones that are not recognized. Your dedication to the city is much appreciative. Thank you. Okay.
Good job, Tanya. Good job. Thank you, Tanya. All righty, let's move on to our audience for visitors. If there's anyone in our audience who would like to address council on any issue, we'd be delighted to hear from you at this time. Okay, seeing none, we will move on to approval of our minutes. Regular session, November the 8th.
Mayor, I move that we approve the minutes of our regular session of November 8th, 2021.
Thank you, sir.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion made and seconded to adopt the minutes from our regular session, November the 8th, 2021. Any concerns, comments, additions, corrections? If not, Ms. Kim?
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews. Aye. Councilman Southall.
Aye. Aye.
Councilman Five.
Aye.
Councilman Hux.
Aye.
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, thank you, Kim. Next item, item F, is a public hearing. It's an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers fiscal year 2022 for general fund and capital project fund for Pocosin City Public Schools. Tanya?
Okay. Tonight, council members, mayor, we have an ordinance making additional appropriations for the school board. I do have the superintendent that will be here to introduce the items in which we are appropriating tonight.
Okay. Mr. Tillett, good to see you, sir.
Good to see you, Mr. Mayor.
Before you get started, I'm gonna call you Mr. Superintendent, but then I decided to call you Mr. Tillett. Now I'm gonna call you Artie. I probably have already said this to you, but I should say it again. We've had a really rough year, and I know that the schools have had a challenging year. But I think it bears saying that with your leadership, the leadership of your staff, and the dedicated teaching staff that we have, children of Pocosin, I don't think have lost out on any education. I believe that. And so if you would pass that on to your staff and make sure the teachers know how much we appreciate the sacrifice, and our kids are sacrificed as well. So just want to let you know that.
I sure
Okay,
will.
thanks, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, may I add
Yes,
to
sir.
that?
Yes, sir.
I'd like to echo the comments of the mayor. I believe we can all agree that when it comes to our children, we can do no better than to support the school system and those that work within it. The education and well-being of our schools is number one for everybody in Pocosin, and extremely important is their safety, which we're all number one. And if I'm indulged for an extra minute,
Yes,
Mr.
sir.
Mayor, it's for this reason that when I heard about that traffic congestion, I know we're going to go into detail in a little bit. At the high school, I was concerned, and because I was looking at cars and we got students walking. I go, there's that's a combination that's always hazardous. So I wanted to go down and see what was going on. So I took it upon myself on the week after Thanksgiving break and went down there to just observe from a distance. I couldn't see too much from a distance from the community center parking lot, so I moved up a little closer and got to see a little bit what was going on there. I was happy to say that Resource Officer Dana Biggs came out and greeted me. We had a nice discussion on what was going on. He explained to me the intricacies of the drop-offs and the buses and stuff like that. And he invited me back. He says, you need to come and sit where I stand up there on the sidewalk. So I took him up on that. And the next day I went back and got to meet the principal there as well. He was an excellent gentleman. I never felt so old as talking to a young man like that. But we got to stand there and got to see exactly what was happening. I have to say that the bus drivers are excellent in the way they performed. It looked like the Thunderbird demonstration team. They were so coordinated. They pulled up one beside the other at exactly 6:55. The doors opened. The students debarked right onto the sidewalk and into the building. At about 6:58, those doors closed and they started proceeding around the loop and out. And by 7 o'clock, they were out on Odd Road, turning right to make it easier for everybody else to get in. And that's when things started going south, because at that point you could see about 15 or more cars lined up from the north, and I don't know how many from the south. But as time went on, by about 10 after 7, there were probably 20 plus cars in each direction. So far from the south, you couldn't even see them because of the trees. There's an issue there. I was there with Officer Biggs and the principal, and then Mr. Sproul, who was band director, who's been helping there from what he said, 25 years with the bus detail. It was long. It was hard. The students were coming and going, and they said that it was an unusual day because it went a little longer than normal. But the final student probably departed from the school, and they never interfered. Things were running pretty smoothly. They got out there, and the only time that Officer Biggs stepped off the pavement was basically to stop traffic so students could pass from the parking area into the school itself, because you can't have them doing both. And I'm just hoping that the trail that goes around back, or the new loop that's going to go back there, helps solve that problem. I know that the engineers can be working on the drainage issues and the kids the students crossing the road in order to get to the school. So I'm in favor of that. So just want to say I was down there. I saw that. I learned a lot from the individuals involved. And pats on the back to all of them. So looking forward to hearing your presentation, sir.
Great. Thank you very much, Mr. Fye. Appreciate that. And Mr. Mayor, for your comments.
Yes, sir.
I have heard it said that you can judge the quality of a community best by how it takes care of its youngest and oldest citizens. And if that's the benchmark, Pocosin is the best there is. I've been here only for 19 months and spent a 30-plus year career in another community that I thought did it better than anybody else until I got to Pocosin. This is as good as it gets. Your support for kids in this community and their families is second to none. I tell it everywhere I go. So I just want to say publicly, thank you for all you do and the commitment you have to our children and their families. So tonight, we're here to request the Re-Appropriations of Carryover funds. It's not an uncommon thing to do at this time of year, because it's hard to slide into home plate at zero. There's either not enough money or a little extra based on how you spend the money during the year. And last year was certainly unprecedented in how schools functioned all around the world. But we, at the close of the year, found ourselves with a $1,136,439 surplus from a variety of reasons. I like to say we're frugal and careful in our spending and good stewards of the taxpayers' money. As well, we received additional unanticipated sales tax revenue. When I got here, I was a little panicked when I realized that part of our funding formula is sales tax, and we are in a pandemic when stores were closing and reducing hours, and folks were quarantined at home for part of that time, until I realized that Amazon counts. So we received significant funding from sales tax that we had a hard time projecting, which was good news. It's a good problem to have. So citizens keep spending. Part of that money goes back to your schools. As well, we had fewer substitutes available and necessary with the novel year we experienced. Fewer extra bus runs, a decrease in utility and bus maintenance costs, vacancies that were unfilled, no travel for professional development, and other COVID funding that we've talked about over time from the federal government and state government to purchase materials, supplies, virtual learning software and hardware, and this goes on. So what we're requesting tonight is to reallocate those funds, $21,727 to be used for the required match for the state technology fund, and that comes every year. $296,545 to provide a one-time bonus for our current full and part-time salaried employees, which we're very excited about. $214 towards the purchase of 2 bus replacements. Currently, just for information purposes, there are 6 of our fleet that exceed the state recommended replacement age of 15 years and have an average mileage of over 221,000 miles. This would allow for the retirement of some of these older buses. $175,000 for the Pocosin High School traffic loop that Mr. Fye spoke about to allow one-way traffic for buses and or parents drop-off during arrival and dismissal times, which would certainly help to alleviate the traffic congestion on Odd Road. And finally, $429,167 toward the Pocosin Middle School Modernization Project. This project has experienced significant change orders due to the age of the building and undetermined challenges that would come from additional asbestos abatement to buried oil tanks in the front yard, and the list goes on. With the property built originally, I believe, in 1932, 1933, and I think 11 renovations. The challenges have been significant, but this is going to be a beautiful facility when it's finished, and we're ahead of schedule, so that's very good news. But we're planning to have this $400,000+ as an additional contingency fund, and then if we don't need it for additional change orders, we'd like to buy new furniture, which was not originally part of the plan for this facility. To be careful with the funding, we were planning to move older furniture into that new space, and so we're hopeful not to have to do that, and these funds will help us toward that end. So that's a general rundown of how we intend to use this carryover funding if approved by council tonight. And again, we thank you so much for your support. I'm available for any questions you may have.
Any questions of the superintendent? Our job is to act on his request, and I would entertain a motion to do that.
Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance making additional appropriations and transfers for fiscal year 2022 for general fund and capital project funds as described by the superintendent.
Okay? Second. All right, we have a motion made and second that we adopt that ordinance. Any questions, concerns, comments? Seeing none, Ms. Kim?
Councilman Green.
Aye.
Councilman Hucks.
Aye.
Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilman Southall.
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman. Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank
Thank
you,
you,
Mayor,
Artie.
Council.
Thank you, sir. All right, let's move on to item 2. It's a request for a zoning amendment by Bob Moses of Fountains of Pocosin, owner and applicant, to revise the terms of rezoning number 5116 from B2 Business to VC Village Commercial of 2.37 acres of property located on the west side of Wood Creek Road, immediately to the south of TJ's Sports Tavern, and identified further as tax map parcel numbers 27-092 and 27-18-2. Tanya?
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. We have Wally Horton tonight, Director of Community Development, that is going to introduce the request for the rezoning.
Thank
Wally?
you. Thank you. I think I'll be pretty brief tonight. You've got the memo, and you've got the approval and denial resolution, and you also have a a clip out of part of the concept development plan that shows phase 3. And I'm looking for my PowerPoint presentation here, which, where is it? Essentially, what we're doing here is, and I'll pull up the phase 3 sort of clipped out section, is phase 3 encompasses the area of buildings 4, 5, and 6. 6 to be in the commercial building, 4 and 5 being the residential buildings in phase 3. And I'm going to read you directly off the application here. But basically, the applicant is requesting the removal of condition number 3, which states prior to site plan approval, a boundary line adjustment plat must be prepared and recorded, vacating all property lines, dividing the properties in question. The reason that this condition existed in the first place, just as sort of a brief background, if you look at this exhibit and you look at that narrow section up at the top, that's phase 4. Phase 4 originally was going to be all residential. Now it is a 2-to-1 ratio of residential to commercial. So really, this condition number 3 that we're talking about getting rid of tonight is no longer needed to preserve the 2-to-1 ratio, because each phase is going to already have 2-to-1 ratio of residential to commercial dwellings. Furthermore, all other conditions will be unchanged. The change is necessary to allow interior property lines to be placed between these buildings here for the purpose of bank financing requirements, so that they'll each be on their own separate deed. So that's really what's going on here. The Planning Commission recommended 4-2 approval of this to the council. From that point, I'll be happy to take any questions you might have. The applicant is also here today to answer any questions.
Before we do the public hearing, any questions of Wally? Go ahead, Keith, I'm sorry.
When listening the other night at the Planning Commission meeting, basically the buildings are built kind of irregardless, if that's a word, of where the property lines were, but now we want the property lines to match where the buildings are going to be.
Yes, the property lines will match where the buildings are going to be. As far as all the setbacks and landscaping and things that we generally require on site plan, we'll regulate that as part of our site plan review.
Okay.
What we have here tonight, Wally, what we're dealing with here tonight, is any violation, any issue, any problem we need to be aware of
No,
from your standpoint? And we
Not-
can ask
not
Mr.
from
Moses
my-
after we open the public hearing.
not from my standpoint.
Okay.
We'll get to the point of figuring out, the setbacks and everything when we get to the site plan approval. But this is really just for permission for him to place those lines at some future point.
Okay. All right.
Gordon,
Yes, sir.
I do have one question. If we do this and they have their separate property lines, okay, will spacing between the buildings allow for the separation for setbacks and so forth as they're placed?
Yes, there is enough room to make it happen. Now,
Okay.
we'll need to sit down, like we always do with Mr. Moses, who's the principal of Fountains LLC, and work out all the details. But yeah, there is enough space.
I was worried about that because as it is now, they would all be within the same property because I understand the financial problem, refinancing, okay? But I was concerned that when you put the property lines in there, then you might run into setback requirements.
Right, they'll be close in some areas, but I think we can make it.
Okay, other questions, comments? Okay, thank you, Wally. Let's open the public hearing then and ask if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address this rezoning request. Bob, how about you?
Thank you, council. It's great to see you all again. I haven't
See
seen you in
you.
a while. I'm happy to answer any questions you may have. This elimination of that one stipulation will allow me to bring in other investors to move forward this development without having to refinance the structures that's already there. That's been the limiting case. We had one bank willing to do it, COVID hit, and they moved out of the city. So we need to move forward with this development. It means a lot to the city. It means a lot to myself and my family who have invested heavily in this venture. And I think this stipulation being removed will allow us to do it.
All right, thank you, sir. Any questions to Mr. Moses? Okay. Thank you, Bob.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Same to you. All right. No comments. We'll close the public hearing. Someone have a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution, approval resolution to approve the modification of the terms of rezoning of 6.37 acres of property located on the west side of Whit Creek Road, immediately to the south of TJ Sports Tavern, tax map parcel numbers 2709002 and 27180. B2 business to VC village commercial.
Second.
All right. Thank you, Brady and Bud. Yeah, that's a tough one.
I ought to get paid extra for that one.
Yeah, I'm telling you. Okay, we have a motion made and seconded. Any comments? Any concerns? Questions? None? Kim?
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Fye?
Aye.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
Aye.
Mayor Hessel?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Kim. All right, let's move on to item G, old business. One item, a conditional use permit requested by CBC Rental LLC back from last month. Ms. Tanya?
Mr. Mayor, City Council, last month on November 8th, a motion was put forward to approve a resolution. However, that resolution was not approved. However, we still owe the applicant, CBC Rentals, a decision of denial. So put forth to you tonight is a recommendation to move forward with the denial of the CUP.
And last month, I should have picked up on that, quite frankly, and I did not do it. So my apologies for that. So you've had a good explanation about what we're doing with this item, so if there's a motion, please.
Just one further
Sure.
question.
Yes, sir.
According to our city ordinances, a motion to approve that fails is not a denial. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we all understood.
You either have to have an approval or denial. You didn't have either one.
Okay.
Okay, there's the motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay.
I move that we pass a resolution denying a conditional use permit for the conversion of office unit to a maximum of 10 housing units at 538 Whit Creek Road, tax map parcel 18, TAC 1, TAC 59, Zone B2, business commercial.
Second.
All right, motion made and second that we deny the resolution. Any concerns or comments, any more questions? If not, Kim, please.
Councilman Fye?
Yes.
Councilwoman Andrews?
Aye.
Councilman Green?
No.
Vice Mayor Freeman?
No.
Councilman Southall?
Aye.
Councilman Hucks?
Aye.
Mayor Hessel?
No.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 4-3.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. All right, let's move on to new business. It's a resolution of the Pocosin City Council approving of the city's participation in a proposed settlement of opioid-related claims against McKisson. Hope I pronounced that right. Cardinal Health, have no Amerisource, Bergen, Janssen, and their related corporation entities, directing the city attorney to execute the documents necessary to effectuate the city's participation in the settlements. And we talked about this last month as well, and you know, it's not only that we have a dog in the fight, but Wayne, do you want to touch on that just a tad?
Very briefly,
Yes, sir.
once you indicated your approval, we conveyed that there is a central clearinghouse that handles all of the participants' application. So we responded to that and put in the fact that the city was favorably inclined to join. They require a resolution designating the authority to execute what would be called a memorandum of operation, when they'll forward us, here's the steps that we're going to take, here's what you'll be doing. So I need the resolution in order to authorize me to execute those documents to complete our registration with the Central Clearinghouse and execute the memorandum of understanding as to how the procedure will go forward.
Okay, we're about to give you what you want. Is there a motion?
Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution of the Pocosin City Council approving of the city's participation in the proposed settlement of opioid-related claims against Cardinal Health, AmerisourceBergen, Janssen, and their related corporate entities, and directing the city attorney to execute the documents necessary to effectuate the city's participation in the settlements.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made second. We adopt the resolution. Any concerns, comments regarding the resolution? If not, Ms. Kim?
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Kim. I forget that you're in the wall, Jana. Let's move on to item 2.
I'm sorry, what?
I said I forgot that you're in the wall. I apologize. You're behind me in the wall. I don't know if you got that or not. Anyway. Ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the Burn Justice Assistance Grant and making appropriation for fiscal year 2022 for the general fund. Tanya?
I'd like to introduce Chief Case to present this ordinance to City Council.
Good evening.
How are you?
Doing well.
Good. Good to see you, sir.
Each year, the Department of Justice, through the Burn Justice Assistance Grant Program, makes federal funds available to localities to help support efforts to reduce crime and improve public safety. And the Virginia Department of Criminal Justice Services has been designated by the federal government as a middleman, so to speak, for a portion of that money. They use a formula that designates which locality gets how much money. 2018 JAG funds were held up in litigation that the City of Pocosin was not involved with, but that's why we're bringing before you now 2018 funds 3 years later. That was settled, and we received notification at the end of October that the city had been awarded $2,058 from the Justice Assistance Grant. In our continued efforts to better serve our community, particularly through officer safety and welfare, what we would like to use these funds for is to purchase load-bearing vests for some of our members that don't yet have those, that redistributes some of this heavy stuff on the hips to other places to relieve some of the stress and tension on hips and lower back. And so before you tonight for your consideration is an ordinance authorizing the city manager to receive and appropriate these grant funds for fiscal year 22.
Well, how many of these vests will that amount of money purchase?
About 5.
Then how many do we lack so that everybody has
I
one?
knew you were going to ask that after
I
I
won't.
left the office today.
I don't need to know. I don't need to know tonight. But
We're probably about halfway through, and because what we're doing, it was when they originally started transitioning, that happened before I got here. The plan was to, as the vests were replaced, the vest program is on a 5-year replacement program for the integrity of the vest, it's for the panels within the vest. And the plan was put in place that as the vests were replaced, they were upgraded to the load-bearing vests. And so we're probably about halfway through that program. This would accelerate us to get about another 25% of the program accomplished. And then over the next couple of years, we'll finish that out with the replacement of the vests that are approaching their expiration date.
Gotcha. Okay. Any other questions of the chief? Okay, thank you, chief. Appreciate you being here. Okay, we need a motion for this ordinance, please.
Mayor, I move that we adopt an ordinance authorizing the city manager to accept the Burn Justice Assistance Grant and making additional 2022 for general fund.
All right, motion made and second that we adopt the ordinance. Any concerns, comments, questions? If not, Ms. Kim.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thank you, Kim. Okay, our last item is a resolution making an appointment to the Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority. Mr. Green?
Yes, sir. Mr. Mayor, I move that we adopt a resolution making an appointment to the Virginia Peninsula Public Service Authority and with the name John T. Anderson inserted.
Okay.
Second.
All right, we have a motion made and second that we adopt the resolution, Anderson's name inserted. Any concerns regarding that? If not, Ms. Kim?
Vice Mayor Freeman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Andrews,
Aye.
Councilman Southall,
Aye.
Councilman Fye,
Aye.
Councilman Hux,
Aye.
Councilman Green,
Aye.
and Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
Thanks, Kim. Comments of our Assistant City Manager?
Yes, thank you, Mayor, council members, Vice Mayor. First of all, in November, City Council approved the use of fund balance for our employees to do a retention bonus. At the beginning of December, they did receive those checks, so I'd like to thank y'all for taking those measures. The checks were well received and appreciated very much by the employees. Also earlier today, we did the ribbon cutting for the CVS. We're excited to have them here in the city, and we hope for much success for both CVS and continued success for Rite Aid. I'd also like to thank City Council on their continuing support to myself and staff as our city manager is at home recovering from his surgery. We wish Randy much speedy recovery. He came into the office today. So we were glad to see him and look forward to seeing him in the future days coming. And then also I'd like to wish everybody a happy holiday, a safe New Year's, and look forward to seeing everybody next year.
All right. Thank you, Tony. Bud?
Yeah, Gordon. First, I'd like to thank all the citizens at home and those who came to council tonight for paying attention to the city government. And relative to a holiday lights program, I think the citizens of Pocosin have done a fantastic job. Not that it's pertinent, but I have this puppy dog that has to go for nightly rides most nights, okay? And we go around the city and we look at and we were looking at the city lights all around the city before the contest started. And the people who have done the work of lighting their homes have done an excellent job. I think people are glad to get outdoors and try to start having life again after COVID. And many more people, I think, are putting up lights this year than I've seen in a long time. One thing that gave me a little bit of a concern is that I was one of the judges, and we looked at the 20 properties that had applied, and they did a fantastic job. But I'll tell you that when you get your list of where the properties are and go look at them, don't just go to those 20 and stop, because if you travel the roads of Pocosin, you'll see some beautiful homes. Okay?
Oh, that.
And we have passed numerous houses that probably would have won or very close to have won had they applied. And I was concerned that maybe some of the citizens didn't know that, hey, you have to apply to be judged, and they did a whole lot of work to try to win and weren't judged because they didn't know that you had to apply. So anybody who's listening to these comments, tell your neighbors that have gone and done all that work, please apply, because you may win next year. Okay? They've done a fantastic job. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Bud. Ms. Janner?
I just second what Bud said. Wish everybody in the city Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, whatever it is you celebrate this time of year. And just thank you for all our city employees and their years of service. It's nice to have so many city employees that, stay with us long term. And it's just a great city to be in, and that's it.
Okay, thank you, Tanya. Jana. David?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to comment on the election that was held last month, and I should have made these comments at last month's meeting, but I failed to do so, and I apologize for the oversight. But election integrity been in the media to a large extent lately, and I'm so thankful that our elections in Pocosin run so smoothly, have no issues that I know of. So I'd like to recognize and thank our registrar, Ms. Tammy Pinckney, and her entire staff. Thanks so much to our electoral board, and also to all the volunteers from throughout the city that give their time for such a successful election. So we're very thankful for that, and we thank all those involved. Same lines, I thoroughly enjoyed the parade this year. The Christmas parade was great. I'd like to thank all the staff members that contribute. I know the various city departments all work together to make a very complex event, to make it look easy, and we're thankful. So thanks so much to Dave Callis, Gretchen Gokenhauer, our parade director, Ms. Debbie. We're having that again this year after having to cancel. Also, it's so nice to have the depth and capacity of talent in our city staff. I'd like to thank Ms. Robin Bellamy, and the fruits of her labor were obvious and evident tonight from our audit findings, which were excellent. Thanks to Tanya for filling in for Randy while he's out. Just to use a sports term, it's so nice to have the depth on needs arise. We have people with the capacity to step in and keep things running. Lastly, I'd like to say hello to Randy and miss you tonight, buddy. Look forward to having you back with us. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
All right, Dave, thank you. Buddy?
There are a couple of things I'd like to echo what David said about the parade. It was just fantastic.
Was it good?
And the staff did a great job in organizing that. And I tell you, you could tell people were anxious to get out there and see it, because the Exchange Club that runs a coffee and a hot drink ran out of stuff before the parade started. So it was well attended, and it was a great parade. I tell you, it was a super parade. I'd also like to remind everybody that the mobile food pantry this month is early. It's going to be on the Tuesday, the 21st of December. Our host bank or Kirkland Presbyterian Church. It starts at 10 o'clock and ends at noon, and it'll be another drive. Everybody come out, because we're going to be off turkeys again. We got turkeys for Thanksgiving and Christmas, so we'll have plenty of turkeys to give out. And
Well, that's a great program that you're involved in, Pat's involved in, and other folks that are involved in. If you've never had the opportunity to help with food bank, I encourage it. It will, in some cases, break your heart. In other cases, it'll make you feel good. Thank you, buddy, you and Pat, for that, and all those who assist you. Keith?
Yes, thank you. I'd like to wish happy holidays to everyone in the greater Pocosin area, including the suburbs of York County and Hampton. My shout out would go to the Public Works. I saw them out today picking up leaves and raking up swales and ditches and everything a lot of us get to stay inside and point. They're outside picking up stuff in the rain and the sleet and everything else. I really appreciate everything they do in Public Works. And lastly, a personal note, I want to say happy birthday to my little girl. My daughter's birthday today. She's a young 43 years old.
Oh, happy birthday. Happy birthday. All right, Kerry?
I really have nothing else to add. I think everybody covered it pretty good. In addition to the parade, the night before was the Christmas tree lighting that had the biggest crowd that I've ever seen out here at the Christmas lighting. So I think people want to get out and do stuff. Wish everybody a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays.
All right. Tanya, thank you for not only filling in, for just being with us. Phenomenal job that you do. I know Randy's watching. I fussed at him this afternoon. I didn't think he should have been here, but he kind of told me, to mind my own business. And so whatever he wants to do with his knee is all right with me. In picking up on a lot of council statements, and we say a lot about this, and it's certainly accurate, but our staff, the entire staff, those that were mentioned here tonight with those longevity awards, people like Robin who've been here for many years. I know that I'm closely worked with Kim and Christy, do an awful lot for me and actually kind of keep me straight, as a matter of fact. So we've got an outstanding environment to work in. Staff spends many, many hours trying to make this council look good, and sometimes that's not easy. But they do a great job. The Christmas parade, certainly, it's already been said, was great. The night before, Carrie, as you bring forward, was actually, and I think you're right. I think it was the largest gathering, unless it was a homecoming football game, that I've ever seen in the time that I've been associated with it. Certainly, Merry Christmas to all of our folks. Last year was kind of a bummer for Christmas. I think this year will be much, much better, and we hope that all of our families have a great Christmas and it turns into a really, really great New Year for everybody. There's one other item the council needs to know about that is just kind of it bothers me. I've written the letters that I think I need to write. But there's an issue, and we have some military folks, some career military folks on this council, and it has to do with what's called concurrent receipts. Basically, what it says is that what the Congress is saying is that a person who served a couple of years in the military and was wounded, whether they lost one arm, they lost an arm and both legs. In some cases, both arms and both legs. It costs too much of a cost to the federal government to pay these folks their retirement that I think they earn, quite frankly. I don't know what you have to do. I don't know what you have to lose in order to be paid $750, $800 a month, which is exactly what it amounts to in most cases. These folks, some of them were there 6 months in whatever field they were in. Some of them were there more than 6 months. But the bottom line is I don't think the Congress is treating those folks right, and we have a bunch of them right here in Pocosin. And so I did not include counsel in the letter. I didn't think it was appropriate. But Senator Kane has the letter. Senator Warner has the letter. And I'm just shocked that we would hear from our congresspeople, senators, that this was too expensive to fund. And so for those guys that are out there and those ladies that are out there that live here or elsewhere, we're going to take it from a local level and see if there's something we can do to help you. It's just unspeakable that our veterans are being treated that way. I had no idea. Got a call from a retired colonel in California who informed me about the issue that he's been fighting for 7 years. 7 years. He can't even talk to these people, let alone get them to act. So we're going to do what we can from a local level to put as much pressure on those folks who are saying it's too expensive to fund. To me, it's just ridiculous, and they ought to be replaced. The people that you have some empathy for somebody who would give all of their limbs for their country, and now you don't want to pay them. So anyway, that's my 2 cents for that. Anything else, buddy?
Could I make a suggestion,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes, sir.
I know you said you thought a letter from council was inappropriate, whatever the word is. I can't come up with words tonight, but anyway, perhaps we could write a letter and have the veterans on the council.
Sure. It's just It just seemed like to me, buddy, the only reason I didn't include council in it was because at that time, it was just a personal issue to me.
Right.
But certainly to do one, then have the entire council sign that letter and point out the fact that we do have veterans on this council who, you know, are behind these kinds of people. But it's just it really bothers me, and it should bother everybody. It should bother everybody. Disgraceful. Okay, we'll get it done. Okay. We'll get it done. Okay, anything else? Okay, we need a motion to adjourn.
So move, Mr. Mayor.
All right.
Second.
Motion made and second to adjourn. Ms. Kim?
Councilman Hux. Aye. Councilman Fye.
Aye.
Councilman Southall. Councilwoman Andrews.
Aye.
Vice Mayor Freeman.
Aye.
Mayor Hessel.
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, the motion carried by a vote of 7-0.
All right, Kim, thank you. We are adjourned.